education partners, including teachers, instructional coaches, and administrators. These webinars are really meant to highlight some of the best practices we see in the teachers and administrators that we work with in classrooms and at the district level. And we're thrilled to bring these series of webinars to help you learn from each other and ultimately to support all students to reach their full potential. Before I introduce Jamie, I just want to go over a couple of presentation. We will have about 10 minutes for questions. So if you have any questions for me or Jamie, please feel free to type them into the question box on the right. And we also want to let you know that following today's presentation, we will share the recording, the slides, and a certificate of completion for attending the webinar. Finally, if you have any technical questions, please let us know in that same questions dashboard. Now it is my great pleasure to introduce Jamie Lang. Jamie teaches a multi-age class of 4th and 5th grade students at Blair Elementary in Waukesha, Wisconsin. The school has 350 students that spans pre-K through 5th grade, and it's a Title I school with 87% of the students eligible for free or reduced price lunch. Jamie is the TenMarks lead for her school and has led a number of TenMarks trainings for her district. She's also one of our Amazon Education Fellows. And it's really been a joy to work with Jamie on this project, and I'm thrilled to now hand it over to her so she can share some of her strategies to guide independent and confident learners in her classroom.
Thank you, Mo. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy days to learn more about some of the strategies that I use in my classroom to promote independent and confident learners. I'm really excited that you guys are all going to be a part of it, so thank you. Last year, I was really focused on learning about specific goals to promote independence and confidence in our classroom. We were working through problems without struggling immediately and asking for help. You can do these things if you believe in yourself, and we really wanted to teach our classroom that you have the resources, you have other scholars in your classroom, that you can do these things. We really wanted to create a classroom community in which students take it for their own learning, gain confidence in their ability to work through the challenging problems. And by June, we were able to see some of these accomplishments really in action. As you can see, here is a picture of what my classroom looked like in September. And there is a long line around my table and a lot of students that were immediately needing assistance and guidance in the classroom. They were frustrated, they were stuck, they had no strategies of how to get out of that. I can't do this without my teacher specifically telling me how to do things. So I kind of revamped the way that my classroom was working, and I really wanted the students to be independent and have that resource and a bank of resources so that they could go out and they could figure these things out on their own. We really put them on the path to becoming independent, self-directed, and confident learners. And there's 3 really easy strategies that I put into my classroom to guide my instruction to become independent learners. So here are a couple of those strategies. The first strategy that we used became a little bit of a catchphrase in our classroom. It's called C3 before me. And what this means is it literally means you have to see 3 resources before you even come and talk to me. And this really was when they were stuck or they have a question, they needed to reach out to 3 different resources before they came to me. The first resource, and these aren't in any like sort of progression, there's just 3 banks of like options that they could go to find that resource. One of the strategies is that they have to ask another scholar. They have to ask 3 other scholars for help before they could come to me. What that kind of looks like in the classroom is that they're walking around and they're showing me that they have 3 fingers up and they're holding them in the air. So that shows me that they're not talking about what's for lunch today or what are you doing this weekend. It shows me that they're having meaningful conversations that are guided about what strategy are you using. Could you help me with this? I'm stuck here. Do you know what operation we're supposed to be trying right now? Those meaningful conversations are happening when they're showing me those 3 fingers. Another resource that we want them to be using in the C3 before me is using the classroom resources that are posted around the room. Every day in our mini lesson, we're making an anchor chart, or we're referring to a poster, or they're using their math notebooks and taking notes. But oftentimes I was noticing that they would never go back to them. Their immediate reaction was to ask me for help. So we did, if they're walking around showing 2 fingers, that means that they're walking around, they're looking at the anchor charts, they're looking at the posters, and they're looking around to see, okay, my teacher taught me this, where can I find it? Where can I go to get that help? Another strategy that we use is the hints and videos that are embedded in the TenMarks assignment. We really encourage students to read all of the hints and watch all of the videos before they come up to us. We can see on our teacher dashboard that shows whether or not students have used all of the hints in the videos, and if they haven't, then we send them back to their seat and make sure that they're looking at the hints and watching the videos. And 90% of the time, all 3 of these strategies get them to the answer before having to come interrupt one of my guided groups, or if I'm working with a specific student. I definitely saw some grumbliness in the beginning of the school year, but I did stick with it, and we provided incentives for them to be using the C3 before me strategy, and throughout the time we could really see a difference in my students over the year, and C3 before me became kind of like our little classroom mantra, and those incentives and that praise for having them walking around with their questions and their deeper thinking really was a big incentive. Here's a screenshot of what the hints and the videos look like when a scholar is struggling. The hints have suggestions on the screen of a different way or a new strategy to look at the question. What I really like is it doesn't give them the answers, it just gives them a new way of thinking about it. The videos are there for reviewing the core concepts or foundational skill that they may need a refresher on, or they may need to be retaught. What I really like about the videos is that it's like a specific mini lesson for that assignment for them to be successful. We really encourage students to use those hints in the videos to teach them how to use them correctly. We take the extra time to physically teach them this is how we use the hints, this is how we use the videos, what that looks like and sounds like and feels like in our math class. This really sets up a system to embrace the use in the hints and videos to grow that independence. So I'm not available all the time, or if they're at home, they still have that bank of resources to be successful and to overcome that problem that they might be stuck on. The next strategy is that each of my students set a personal goal and they track their own goals. Students play an active role in their goal setting. Each month, students write a goal on how they're going to be successful, how they're going to reach that goal, and what artifacts they will collect to maintain that goal. Their job is really specific to track their scores on the graph each week and to collect artifacts. They just take screenshots of their 80% or higher on their TenMarks screens, and they put them into their portfolio. What these goals really allow them to do is to keep track of their scores, share them with their families at conferences. We have student-led conferences, so those portfolios and those graphs really make it specific to show parents, here's what I did, here's how I'm growing, here's how I'm learning, here's what I still need to work on. This also keeps them motivated and on task. If a student does get that 80% or higher and they're excited about it, they have a specific job right after that they know they have to graph it, screenshot it, put it in their portfolio, and quickly move on to the next thing. Whereas before, in the beginning of the year, if they were excited, they would come up and show me right away and interrupt whatever guided group I was working on, which I was excited for them, but now they have a specific task that they need to do, and they can see that progression on their graphs. They were really internally motivated to keep track of that growth and to teach them how to set and to reach a goal. We really made that connection with the students with their goals to see the purpose and the relevance and the value in their schoolwork. We all know that research shows that they're having that meaning behind their schoolwork and that motivation really promotes better outcomes. So that's how we use the goals. The third strategy is to have all of the students keep a math journal and to teach them to think about their thinking. What are they thinking about when they're solving their problems? I really told them I wanted to get inside your brains. I want to know what your strategies are, how you're struggling, what are you thinking about. So at the beginning of the school year in our math workshop, we specifically had a set time at the very end for journaling. We had 10 minutes at the very end of math workshop where students had a specific journal prompt and then a specific sentence frame for them to answer. And they went and we specifically taught them, what does that look like? What does it mean to write about math? Like what language do we use? What vocab do we use? How do we get them to pull out that problem solving strategies? As the year went on, we were able to kind of break apart that time specifically at the end of math workshop, and journaling became more fluent in their math workshop. They were stopping after they were problem solving to write down the steps that they were solving. They wrote down how they justified their answer after they solved something. They were really thinking about that thinking and being identified to be able to pick a specific strategy, see the big picture, and what their approach was to solving the problem. We really encouraged them to journal about their mistakes and their growth. What worked? What didn't work? How did you come up with this answer? How did you work with other scholars? What strategies did you come up with? Did you use C3 before me? Did you use the hints? Did you use the videos? This really shows their progress into more fluent journaling. And also we want them to look back at those journals and use them as a reference to go if they are struggling, to learn from their mistakes, help with future math problems. We really want them to go back and forth between their work and their journaling. And as the year went on, we could really see that journaling became more of a next step when they're problem solving instead of a specific time. Here are some examples of some of the prompts and the sentence starters that I use in my classroom. So for an example, how do you know when your answer is correct? A really easy sentence starter is, I know my answer is correct because, or list some of the steps that you used. I solved the problem by first I, then I, and finally I. And in the beginning of the year, my students really depended on these. Like, it was a heavily dependent tool that they needed, the prompt and the sentence starters. And we taught each one of these. How does that look like, or what does that look like in your notebook? How do you write about math? And as the year went on, they didn't depend on them as much, but they had them glued into their math notebooks just in case they needed to go back. But as the year went on, those journal and sentence starters really became fluently in their math discussions with each other and in their journals. These sentence starters are really beneficial for our high ESL population that we have. So it gives them that vocab and how do I start my sentence? Here's my ideas, but how do I get it started? But they also work for all of our English students as well. Just for those ESL kids, it's a little helpful for them. Each day we have time for them to share out their journals, and we have a rubric that's attached to those journals for feedback. And it just creates that practice of reflection and for them to regroup their ideas and to talk about their mistakes and to talk about some challenges and to talk about what they overcame. So we really have seen a lot of that independent and some effort put into their work because they have to write about what they're doing. So those are pretty much the 3 strategies of how I put that independence and that confidence in the student. And we saw a huge impact in our entire class. First, we saw a lot of collaboration. There was less standing around time at my desk. There was less wasted time of them waiting for me and waiting for me. There were more students working and learning from each other. There were the more advanced scholars helping the lower scholars and teaching them a new strategy. We could see other students asking questions, and it wasn't that embarrassment anymore of, oh, is it okay if I ask a question? I'm not sure. Should I ask it? Because we promoted that. We promoted that conversation to be happening in the math classroom. Every single student felt empowered to help each other and really raise their math esteem. The next thing that we saw is that perseverance. That C3 before me strategy pretty much trained the students to use other resources besides me. It taught the students new ways of solving problems using the hints, retaught themselves with the videos, taught them to really stop and calm down and ask another scholar, look around the room, persevere, and show a little grit when you're problem solving before you immediately give up and ask for help from your teacher. The third thing that we saw was that it was more analytical. We have a huge emphasis in literature and reading in our schools, and I think that's important to bring that into math. Journaling has taught my scholars how to be reflective learners, explain their thinking, reflect on their mistakes. They were able to go back and review their previous journal entries to become better and more independent problem solvers. They were able to look at what strategies worked, what strategies didn't work. I'm not going to make that mistake again. I learned that one the hard way. So just really having them reflect on their problem solving was a huge growth too that we saw. The biggest takeaway is that the students' confidence went up so much. They were less frightened by standardized testing and these big goals that they had to beat by the end of the year because they were tracking their progress on a monthly and weekly basis. They were used to setting and reaching a specific goal. They could visually see their progress and the connection to their hard work and their success, and they were more confident in having a bank of resources or a bank of strategies. Okay, here's what I do if I get stuck. Now what? Now what? And now what? What do I do? And when we go to do their standardized testing, they have that bank of resources to stop and calm themselves down. There's one student specifically that makes me think all about this and how it impacted this one specific student. He hated math in the beginning of the year. He was really hard on himself, but he was completely capable. He was on grade level. He was so good at math. He just needed to shift his language from I can't do this to I can, I just need help. He needed that constant attention from me because he didn't have that bank of resources to problem solve. We really worked with Math I Can Pledge to change that language from I can't to I can. We really gave him that empowerment that he can do it, to what it felt like to be successful. We did differentiate his assignment so he could feel what it was like to get 100%. I had specific students go up and ask him for help, ask him for questions, so it could feel like it's okay to ask others for help and it's okay to help others. I really encourage all of you guys, if you haven't signed up for the Math Esteem or the With Math I Can pledge, to go and do so and watch the video with your students and to teach them how to change their language. And there's a bank of like really valuable resources to grow your students' math esteem and for them to really see like that they can do anything that they put their mind to. So here are some resources if you would like more information about goal setting, increasing independence, or metacognition, that thinking about thinking. The withmathican.org is also linked there. So if you would like to learn more about that, that's a really great place to go. So thank you so much for your time. Sorry if I talked so fast. And if there were any questions, Mo, did you have any, or let me know?
Yeah, Jamie, we have a number of questions. First of all, thanks everyone for being a wonderful audience. We have a number of comments and questions. So Jamie, let's start with this one from Dana. She asked to hear a little bit more about your student-led conferences.
Sure. So we really focus on the student part of the conferences. We have only 15 minutes with each family, and we really want that 15 minutes to be focused on the students. So we break it in half. The first 7 minutes of the conferences are completely student-led. They're only with the student and their parents. This is where they can show them their portfolio, show them their goals, their screenshots, their graphs. That's really time for the students to kind of show off, like this is what I do in my class, this is how successful I've been. And then the last 7 minutes of that time is really for us to praise that student on their hard work. We talk about using the hints, we talk about using the videos, we teach the parents about the different strategies that their students work. We look at their thoughtful logs for math and we show these are the journal prompts, these are the rubrics and the feedback for that. So they're really, really student focused, and since they're already tracking their growth every day and every month, conferences aren't something that we have to really prepare for. It's just something that we're readily available.
Great, thanks, Jamie. So this next question is from Enette. Could you tell us a little bit more about the journal rubric? What does that look like? when you're reviewing journal entries?
Sure. That one took us a little bit of time to figure out how to get feedback to the students. We know that it's so important for them to know that we're reading them and that we're looking at them and that they're getting feedback on them. If we're not looking at them, they're not going to put the effort into it. So we set up a system, and each scholar gets feedback once a week with a specific rubric that connects with the language that they use, what strategy did you explain, did you use vocabulary, and then of course grammar. Did you have capital letters, punctuation, and all that stuff. So we have that embedded into a really quick rubric that the students look for each day of the week. They get one day where they get their rubric back and they're able to run in their mailbox and look to see how did I do on my journal entry. And we don't let them know which journal entry we're going to be grading, but they do know that at least once a week they're going to get feedback from us. And we feel like that's really important for them to know that we care about what they're writing about and that they are excited to get their feedback from us. So that's a little bit about that. Did that answer it?
Yep, that's perfect.
Okay.
Thanks, Jamie.
Sure.
Okay, so this next question is from Kathleen. Do you teach students how to coach each other using, the right positive social skills?
Yes. We noticed that they were kind of struggling in that, what that conversation looks like. Like, how do we have that conversation? So we did set aside some time in our math workshop to teach strategies, how to have really meaningful and deep conversations, how to promote each other instead of bringing each other down. We literally have an anchor chart hanging in the classroom of, when I'm stuck, ask these specific questions, like, hey, what strategy are you using? Could you show me what you're doing? I don't understand this. Could you try and explain it in a different way? Or do you know what operation we're supposed to be doing right now? We came up as a team and as a class of what questions should be answered. And then we did a fishbowl activity to show them this is what a really good conversation and a meaningful conversation looks like, and this is what a not so great conversation looks like. So we modeled that for them. And it did take some time, and it did take some incentives of praising the groups that were really having good conversations. We would record students working together and then model that and show them back, this is what a good conversation looks like, and use the students as the videos. So that was something that we really spent a lot of time teaching them how to have those meaningful conversations.
Great, thanks, Jamie. So this next question/comment is from Barbara. Barbara writes, journals are an excellent tool to track thinking. It really is how organized individuals grow and learn. So her question is, do you use journals in lower and higher grades at your school, and have you ever attempted digital journaling?
Yes, we promoted journaling a lot last year throughout the entire grades. And of course that looks scaffolded. I mean, in kindergarten and in first grade, it was more of like a like oral response or a group conversation, but they were still thinking about it. And as the grades went up, like first, second, third grade, were writing a little bit more, whole group, and then by the end of the year they were writing independently. And up in the fourth and fifth grade in our classroom in our elementary school, we were actually using digital ones so that we would send them out a prompt and they had a choice. They could either write their journal answer, they could send us a video of them talking and explaining their thought process and all that stuff. And then we had a voice note. If they didn't want to be recorded, they could just record themselves speaking through their process. Otherwise, they could take a picture if they wanted to write it out and then take a picture and upload it. And we were grading them right on that app. So they had 4 different ways of journaling. This year we really focused more on the thoughtful log and specifically writing. But there is definitely ways that you can differentiate that with technology. And we did a little bit of both last year. So yeah, I definitely think that it can be spanned. You just have to scaffold it from whatever your students need. We have one student that really struggles with writing, so he records all of his journal prompts.
Great, thanks, Jamie. So
Sure.
This question is from Yancy and or Yaney. I'm sorry. Thanks, Yaney. And This is actually a great question because I know you and I've seen some of the great strategies you use to encourage this as well. She writes, my students sometimes struggle to use hints in videos in TenMarks. They struggle in math and are not that independent. Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, we definitely saw that in the beginning of the school year too, that there wasn't really an internal motivation for them to use the hints in the videos. They were like, it's too hard, I don't want to. We really built in that internal motivation and external motivation too. If they get an 80% or higher on their score, they get to fill out a TenMarks book, just like really simple, like a little sheet of paper that they can sign their name. And they go into a bucket, and at the end of each math workshop, I pull out a 10-mark book, and they get a prize. Sometimes it's a mustache sticker or a pencil or 5 minutes of free time, and that really motivates them. They also write on that sheet how many hints and videos that they used. The graphing of their scores also has the component for them to write down how many hints and how many videos, and we really push the correlation of here's how many hints I used, here's how many videos I used, look at my score. And when I don't use any hints and videos, look at my score. And we show them the correlation between watching the hints, watching the videos. They also get points in their 10 market, which is where they get to play the games. The more hints in the videos they use, the more points they get. So on Fridays, we call it Fun Friday, we have specific designated time in our schedule for them to go to the 10 market and redeem their points and play the games. And that's a huge motivation for them. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit about how I raised like that incentive. It definitely takes time to teach them how to use the hints and how to use the videos, and I think it's really valuable to take that time to, this is where I'm stuck, I'm going to watch my video. What am I doing when I'm watching the video? What am I thinking about? How can I use the hints to make me think in a different way?
Great, thanks, Jamie. So our next question is from both Erin and Dana, and they ask kind of whether your student portfolios are hard copy or do they use a digital portfolio, an online portfolio. Erin asks specifically if there is a TenMarks digital portfolio that students use.
They do not have a specific TenMarks one that I'm aware of, but we use an app called Book Creator, and they I send them kind of like a template for each month, and they have their goal written on there. They have what artifacts they need to collect throughout the month. They have a reflection piece, so how did you maintain this goal? What artifacts did you use? Why did the artifacts show your progress? And in that app, it's pretty cool. You can take pictures, so they take a picture of the graph that they're coloring on a day-to-day basis. They also can upload their screenshots. They can upload videos, so if they one of their journal entries, maybe they did a video prompt to answer it, they can put that video right into the portfolio. We do have some students that because of behavior gotten their iPads taken away, so we do have kind of a mix of hard copies of portfolios where we print off the screenshots, we print off their certificates, they put their graphs in, and they just write out their reflections for their goals. They write, by the end of November, I will be able to score an 80% on 75% of my assignments, and that's written out. So we do have a little bit of mix of both, but 90% of our students are on the Book Creator app, and then they can show their parents at conferences. We also have their reading goals in there too, so it's really nice. Everything's kind of in one place for their portfolios.
Great, thanks, Jamie. Just a quick announcement. We are thrilled. So many of you are asking really quality questions of Jamie, but we're kind of running out of time here, and we want to be sensitive to everyone taking time out of their Tuesday. So we only have time for a couple more questions. And you should know, too, that Jamie and I actually are working together on another project, a blog post, which will be featured on our blog, which will provide you with some more of these resources that you're asking for, more tips and strategies that Jamie's using in her classroom. So we'll be sure to share that blog with all of you once we've completed it. We'll finish up with, I guess, a couple more questions. So Alexa asked, and I did see variations of this question, Jamie. Do you have any other suggestions for C3 before me, in addition to the classroom resources, working with other scholars, and then the TenMarks hints and videos? If for whatever reason, whether it's not having access to the internet and unable to use the TenMarks hints and videos, whether it's something that's maybe more age appropriate for older or younger students, any other ideas in your professional opinion for teachers if they want to roll out C3 before me in their classroom, aside from the resources that you've suggested?
Sure. I mean, depending on the age group that you're working with, pretty much whatever 3 strategies you come up with, I would definitely stick with them. Like ours are specifically for scholars, hints and videos, and for classroom resources. But if you come up with C3 before me, C3 resources, go back into your worksheet. What are you working on in the classroom? Go back to previous things that we've worked on. Maybe go back to a mini lesson. If you have, this is technology again, but if you record your mini lesson and you can put them in an app, they could go back and look at the mini lesson. Anything that you have in your classroom that you can teach students to go back and look on their own really is beneficial. I mean, we use C3 before me in other areas in our classroom too, that we really encourage them to go back into their notes. What notes did you take during our mini lesson? Or what other areas in the classroom can you go find a poster? Could you go ask another adult in the classroom? Could you look in a book? Could you look in a text? Could you find it on a different resource? So we really just, whatever those 3 strategies that work in your classroom, I would just suggest setting up that system. Does that kind of answer that? It's kind of hard, like, without knowing, like, what resources are available.
Yeah, I think you did a great job, though, Jamie. You're doing great.
Thanks.
So let's finish one. Let's take one more question.
Okay.
And this is from Dina. How can do you have any suggestions to improve your students' confidence with math vocabulary?
Yes, we have a station set up in math. They kind of have like 3 or 4 stations each day that they're rotating to, but at least 2 times a week they are at a vocabulary station where they have the definition, a picture, an example, and then there's usually, I can find a link to either a website or a video, and they have in their back of their math notebook is their math glossary where they're writing down the definition, the word, the picture, and an example. They have to use those vocabulary words in their journal prompts and their journaling. They have to have at least 2 of this week's vocab words embedded in those, and that's part of that rubric. Did I use 2 vocab words from my bank of this week's words? And I have them posted on our math wall with a little QR code that links them to the video, either the definition, the picture, and example. So it's always readily available for them. But I definitely think that if they don't get taught that vocab, then they're not able to use it in their journaling. They have it 2 times a week where they are writing down the words and then they're using them fluently in conversations. We have like prompted questions where they're using the vocab. So that's really helped with their journaling and spelling it. They have to spell the word correctly to get the points in their journal prompts too. So that's kind of how we introduce vocabulary.
Great. Thanks so much, Jamie. And thanks, everyone, for being here. This has been a really great kickoff to our Educator Spotlight series. It's been so fun. Jamie, thanks again. And as a reminder to all of you, we will be following up with a link to the recording, the slides, as well as the certificate of completion. So we'll get those out to you as soon as possible. And thanks again for being here, and we'll see you for our next Educator Spotlight webinar. Take care. Bye.